Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Days and welcome to a shocked Wrestling Days, a borderline speechless Wrestling Days. I mean, I can find some words, I need to find some words because we've just seen one of the all-time great wrestling shows and we might have just seen the greatest wrestling match. For me, the end of that match puts it into that bracket, puts it into that conversation. I know that we've seen a lot of it before. I mean, this is the fourth time that they've faced each other, but it just didn't matter. It was stunning. I can't even find the words. I mean, I was so invested. I'm sure you were as well. Just every move, every reversal, every rainmaker, every one-winged angel, every second was just... I just couldn't get enough. I just could not get enough. I mean, they wrestled for over an hour, I believe it was. It was obviously 2 out of 3 falls. Okada took the first fall. That meant Omega had to take the next 2, which he does. I think it was like... it was definitely a one-winged angel that won it. I think a V-trigger and another one-winged angel. And just that moment. I mean, I've done a reaction video. If you've not seen it, I'll put a link on screen. Check it out. You can obviously come back to this video after, or I'll put a link at the end, because just that moment, and it's just a split second, but where it's 1, 2, 3, and it's done. I mean, it's not just the fact that Kenny Omega is the new IWGP champion. It's the fact that Okada isn't anymore. I mean, Okada's just had the greatest championship run ever. Like, that's not even up for debate. He has. It's his 4th reign with that title. He's held it for over 700 days in this reign. I think he's defended it about 12 times. And this feud, these 4 matches that he's had with Kenny Omega are the best. They're the best. They're the best. You're talking about the leader of Chaos taking on the leader of the Bullet Club. It started at Wrestle Kingdom. They wrestled for about 40-odd minutes. Dave Meltzer called it the greatest wrestling match he had ever seen. And it was Okada that won that match. Dave Meltzer would go on to give it 6 stars out of 5, would just completely break his own rating system. The internet went giddy over it. It was stunning. It was a stunning match. Little did we know what was to come, though, because the rematch would be later in 2017 at Dominion. And it was a draw that time. It was a 60-minute draw. They threw everything at each other. You just could not find a winner. I mean, these were just 2 great equals, and there was nothing that could separate them. Dave Meltzer then said that was the best wrestling match he'd ever seen, and he's been watching wrestling since, I don't know, the 70s. I mean, I know that he's been working at the Observer since the early 80s, so he knows his stuff. If Dave Meltzer says these are the best wrestling matches he has ever seen, then you listen. He broke his rating system again. He gave it 6.25 stars out of 5. And then, again, it was like, well, where do we go from here? Well, the 3rd match came along, and that was at the G1 Climax last year. And that wasn't for the title. And as a result, Kenny Omega won. It was a shorter match. It all had to fit into like 25 minutes. And Dave Meltzer still gave it 6 stars. So they didn't even have the length of all the other matches, and it still got a 6-star rating. And now that brings us to this match. Really emotional start. I loved the bit on the screens before Kenny came out, and he was being asked by Kota, what did you have to give to get this opportunity? And he said everything. And as he said that, the Bullet Club logo kind of dissolved and disappeared off the screen, kind of showing that he had sacrificed his friends the Bullet Club, everything to be where he was and get this opportunity. And obviously then a card came down, the match kicked off. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. I mean, I could stand here talking to you about all the bits that happened throughout, but the headlines are that it was Okada that took the first fall. That meant Omega would have to take the next 2, and he does. It's a one-winged angel that finally does the job. I mean, he hit a few of them, but it was the one-winged that did the job. And that moment, I mean, it brings a smile to my face just to think about it. That 1, 2, 3, you don't know if he's not going to kick out. And when that 3 hits, it's the end of the greatest championship run of all time. The beginning of, well, who knows? But Kenny to actually finally reach the mountaintop. This story has just been going on for years. The build to it all and the psychology, and I mean, I'm swooning over it. I'm sure you'll forgive me. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same. I can't say if this is better than the other matches. The ending certainly was. The emotion, you know, the fact that we've got a new stable now because Kenny had the Young Bucks come down. You know, the Young Bucks, they'd been so close. They'd been in the Elite, and obviously there'd been like divisions within the group, and Kota had come back, and all of this had kicked off, and all 4 of them just embrace. And I'm not gonna lie, there's tears in my eyes during that reaction video, during that moment. I'm getting choked up. I think I even said at one point, like, if you're not getting emotional over this, I just don't know what to say. And when I went onto Twitter, so many people saying the exact same thing. A lot of people on Twitter saying this is the best wrestling match ever. It will be fascinating to hear what Dave Meltzer rates it. I wouldn't be surprised if this it's a 6. There's no two ways about it. This is a 6-star match. But is it going to be a 6.5? Is he going to go 7? I mean, I can't see them doing another match. I mean, really, Okada should get a rematch. You know, he deserves a rematch. Maybe they do. I don't know what's going to happen, but man, it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Loved it. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. It was over 60 minutes long. It was epic. I saw people like Jack the Jobber from Cultaholic saying, I hope this can live up to the, you know, the expectations, because those expectations are colossal. And it did. It did. And there's nothing else I can say other than it met the expectations. And then the ending for me exceeded them. It's stunning. I mean, we need to talk about the rest of the card, because I would be doing you a disservice if we didn't talk about everything that took place. So, Kanemaru and El Desperado retained the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championships over Roppongi 3K. Juice Robinson and Dave Finlay beat Switchblade J and Yoshihashi. Now, that was big, because Robinson actually stood over Switchblade J with Switchblade's US title. Clearly, Juice Robinson is now first in line for a title match. Not sure that he'll win that. They seem to be all in on Switchblade J, but that was a big, big moment. Ishii and Yano versus Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr., and it was Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. that won. Afterwards, we saw Suzuki with a chair, which was terrifying, because he's terrifying anyway. So giving him a chair was even more terrifying, and he was going at it with Ishii. So clearly, you know, issues still there, unsurprisingly. The Openweight Championship, this had Godo versus Taichi versus Michael Elgin. Michael Elgin looked a little leaner than what I had seen before. So I'm not sure, like, they were saying on commentary that he dropped quite a bit of weight. So, yeah, you know, cool to see him looking healthier, leaner, and he picks up the win as well. He is the new Never Openweight Champion. Next up, we had, wow, this was quite emotional as well, because this was the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match. This was Los Ingobernables de Japon, which is Evil and Sanada, versus the Young Bucks. Now, the Young Bucks had been fighting for the junior tag team titles for really all the time that they've been in New Japan. They've dominated that division. They've come up now because they're a little bit bigger than they were, and now they were competing for the second time for the Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. I'm sure on commentary they said they'd competed for them once before against the Briscoes and came up short. So this was going to be, this was going to take everything. This was going to be a war, and a war is what we got. This match was fantastic. This was the best match of the night up to this point. It was just Young Bucks won. Young Bucks won with bang for your buck. It means that we have new champions as well. And I think it really added to the end of the show, because obviously you had Kenny with his new title, but you had the Young Bucks with their new titles as well. It's just a shame that Kota Ibushi couldn't win a new title. Like Kota Ibushi versus Switchblade J for the US Championship, and Kota had won. That would have really made this show, I think. Next up, we had Tanahashi, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio wearing a mask, and it looked exactly like the New Japan logo. It was awesome. They took on Bullet Club, so Cody, Hangman Page, and Marty Scrull. This was a good match, but it couldn't follow the Young Bucks match. And Bullet Club win. Basically, Cody with a crossroads on Jushin Thunder Liger. And it was just cool. It was cool to see those legends working together. Rey Mysterio in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring was noteworthy. It felt like a big deal. It's just, for me, the match didn't quite reach the expectation, but it was still cool. It was still cool. Next up, we had, this was awesome. This was for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. This was Will Ospreay taking on Tanahashi. This was explosive, hard hitting, had fantastic agility, aerial kind of acrobatics, had everything. It had everything. This might have been my favourite match. It was either this or the Young Bucks match up to this point. But Tanahashi wins, and we get a new champion. That moves us on to the co-main event. We've obviously spoken quite a bit at length about the actual main event, but Naito versus Jericho. This is fascinating because at Wrestle Kingdom 12, Naito was very vocal about the fact he didn't want outsiders coming in. He didn't feel that Jericho belonged here. He wanted to see, New Japan stars being given that kind of a spotlight. Jericho didn't really say anything in response, but the next night after Wrestle Kingdom, he attacked Naito and then he disappeared, went away for months and months and months, came back recently, busted Naito open, we got this match. Naito had won the Intercontinental Championship since the start of the year, so this was a title match. And honestly, I don't think anyone saw this coming. I didn't see anyone on Twitter predicting this. I didn't see anyone on YouTube predicting this. Everyone thought Jericho was in this for one match, grudge match, help Naito, put Naito over, and then he would go. Jericho wins this match. Jericho is the current IWGP Intercontinental Champion. Jericho is a champion for a wrestling company not called WWE. That is huge. I don't know if he told Vince in advance. I don't know if Vince knew. I don't know if Vince found out by watching this match. I don't know if Triple H is going to have to tell him. I don't want to tell him. I don't want to tell him. This was just, I didn't see it coming. It shocked me. I'm all for it. I think this is a fascinating feud. And yeah, it's shocking. I mean, Naito is arguably the most over performer they have. I mean, it could be Kenny, of course, now that he's got this victory, but wow, yeah, just a night of shocks. So it was title change, title change, title change. It was 3 in a row, because the match we got after this was then the main event, which was Okada versus Omega. We spoke about the importance of that match. We've spoken about the history of that match. We've kind of briefly touched on the show. We've gone through the results. And I can't emphasize it enough how much New Japan have knocked it out of the park these past couple of years. But it all feels like it was building towards this show. This show feels like the pinnacle, the climax. I'm not sure why, because it's Dominion, and you'd think that they would finish it at Wrestle Kingdom. Perhaps like this new stable is going to, carry the story along. It'll be interesting to see, where we go from here. We've obviously got the G Climax coming up for this year. I mean, it just continues. It just keeps going, but we have to take a second to just admire the greatest feud of all time, the greatest championship reign of all time, and maybe the greatest wrestling match of all time. I don't know. I honestly don't know if it is. I mean, it's one of their matches. You can narrow it down to one of the 4. I'm just not sure if it's this one. But I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a like. Smash that subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully, see you again next time. Bye for now.